Hello, everyone. My name is Finance Nick. Welcome to my webinar, Working with Objectives. This is part of the Business School of Sincere Systems Group. We're going to be going through a couple of simple but cool, really helpful rules and tips. When working with certain clients, you have to understand, first and foremost, the objections that they have. And when I talk about objections, I mean things that perhaps they don't necessarily not like, but perhaps they don't know what they're dealing with yet. So you need to find out exactly what questions they have in their mind and turn those excuses and objectives into, legitimate questions that you can answer and gain curiosity for yourself as a sales or marketing representative, or whether you're in Sincere Systems Group or you're working for a marketing agency or you're selling a product or a business idea. This webinar is going to be covering all those aspects. So let's move on. Let's get to know each other. My name is Nick, or Nikolay, or Finance Nick, as I'm better known on my YouTube channel. I'm a marketing graduate. Quite some time since I graduated from marketing. I've been in business dev and marketing since I was 15 years old. And I have, hello, Seifa, how you doing, brother? And just been going through tech startups since about 15 to about 19. Afterwards, I managed a couple of government projects for United Arab Emirates. Marketing, of course, marketing. There was a couple of projects that I've been working on, and that went pretty well. I live completely on a passive income, thanks to having studied investments for some time now and financial instruments. I'm also a crypto enthusiast, and I create content. So welcome to my webinar. I'm also, most importantly, an investor and active partner of Sincere Systems Group. So learning objectives. As I mentioned, objectives are the typical reaction of partners that makes it difficult to continue reaching results in a discussion, something that hinders you going to the next step, closing a deal, getting some, getting the information that you need to close a deal, whatever it is. Learning objective of working with objectives, objections, of this presentation specifically, is to understand the relationship between your client and your words in case of misunderstanding to reach a common ground. So again, building a relationship with your client, working with them not as a client, but as a partner, perhaps even as a friend, gaining the trust and learning the information that you need to close a deal, whatever it may be. So the very first rule that I tell, my partners and, people who come to me for advice is change your mindset before towards objections in order to understand them better. So a lot of people, they take objections as a negative factor, that objections in and of itself is a negative word, right? When you object to something, you go against something, you go against the flow. That's the typical, mindset that people have. And it's not just salesmen and marketing experts and everyone, the word objection by itself means a negative sort of hindering to any problem or any question that you want to resolve. Rule number one is not to fight it. You don't want to fight your objections. You want to answer the questions. The objections should not be seen as objections, but more as questions. Or perhaps if there is an objection, a negative sort of, all the haters in the room sort of going against you, turn those objections into questions and tempt the curiosity. So questions are great because the more questions a partner has or a person has, whoever you're working with, a lot of people, come into investment, they're like, Nick, I really don't trust any of this. I've never, my first question is, have you ever invested in anything in your life? And there you go. And that straight away, that makes them think about it. That makes them think about, what they're saying. They're not just spitting out words. They start to formulate, a curious mindset where they want to find out more information from you. And that is what closes deals with clients. So make sure you're answering questions and not fighting questions or objections. Distrust and questions exist in everyone's mind. Everyone has mistrust towards something. It's not just about investment. It's not just about money. It's more of a, it's just the human sort of reaction to everything, the weather's bad and everyone's like, oh, it's horrible. This guy said something on one day. If you had your coffee, that person might sound like, an angel. The next day he might be the devil, So it's really the human mind that we're working with. So we shouldn't, take it negatively or sort of treat it as if, we're not, how can I even express it? We shouldn't treat it as a as a barrier, so to speak. Jesus, the weather here is absolutely crazy in Moscow. It's like a war going on. But we should approach it in a manner that everyone knows where they're at in terms of your relationship. So questions are the best way to create conversation, not to be looked at as an attack or a way to defend. I think this slide is pretty clear. So people, rule number 2 is people are your reflection, you know. So people typically mirror you, tell you that which you believe yourself, you know, meaning you are afraid to hear it. So a great example of this is when I first went into, got into investment and sort of started studying crypto. I treated it with a lot of mistrust. In fact, I would say I was the kind of guy who's like, this is all BS. I don't want any of it. This is all crap. I don't want to have any part of it. And I'll tell you something, that the fact that I had that reaction and the fact I am who I am today just points to that this kind of webinar and this kind of knowledge will help a lot of people close deals, because at the end of the day, I got into it and I've seen these results, and not just these results that I'm very, very happy with, which are going to be growing and growing exponentially. So objections are questions and misunderstanding within yourself, first and foremost. If you, as I was saying, right, as a lot of clients I worked with in the beginning, you know, and sort of the beginning of my investment journey, they would ask, not ask questions, but they would have reactions that were not very positive in terms of what I wanted. So they might have, it's not that they were saying anything bad, but, you know, the reactions were mostly, you know, sort of mistrust, and, you know, they didn't really know exactly what I wanted to tell them, even though they asked first about what I do. But that was simply because I realized that I have that mistrust myself, because I don't know much about the subject. Let's all agree that the less you know about something, the more you mistrust it. It's not about that thing being bad or good. There's a lot of things going on in the world which to you might be bad, to me might be good, to me might be bad, to you might be good, right? But the reason that happens is mostly because people are not as informed as they should be. So the more people are informed, the more objections they have cleared for themselves, a lot more questions they've answered, opens up a way for them to gain more information and more knowledge about the subject, which genuinely closes not just sales deals, but changes human minds and human mindsets, you know, that we have every day, whether it's sport, whether it's investment, whether it's, you know, your job, whatever it is. The main thing is be honest with yourself and with people, you know, get your head clear first. A lot of times when I'm going into like investment, certain investment opportunities, before I tell people about it, you know, when people ask like, what do you do? You know, I don't go ahead and say, yeah, I do this, that, even though I've started like a week ago. You know, I never do that. It's like, you know, you go to the gym for a week and then you tell everyone you're about, you know, you go to the gym, you know, you're a sports freak. No, that's not how it works. So be honest with yourself. In order to be honest with yourself, first, understand what you're doing. You know, come to webinars, you know, sort of marketing my own webinars right here, you know, come to my webinars, you know, learn something, learn how to work with clients, and then, you know, and then move forward. Don't just jump right into it, because people are going to be reflecting your energy. As I say in a lot of my webinars, people reflect exactly what you put out, you know. For every action, there's a, you know, reaction, right? There's everyone knows this. So be honest with yourself and with people. Exercise 1, this is something that you can do right now. You can actually take a notepad and write this down, or you can put in the chat box. That's really cool. Have you ever made a presentation and received objections? If you are in Sincere Systems group with us and you have already been working with people, telling them about, you know, not even working with people, but telling them about the company or whichever company you work for, I'm sure you've received objections. Write down as many of these objections as you can. And if you would like, you can post them in the chat box as well. But, you know, just keep that list down. And the exercise 2, I'm just going to go through it straight away. Once you've had that sort of list, you can do this throughout the webinar. I'm not saying, we're not going to stop here and wait for everyone to start writing, you know, just write them down as we move along, and write down one objection for yourself. You know, this webinar is recorded, so you can write this down in the comment section under the video. You can write down one of the objections that actually, you know, stands out, you know, and add any objections that you see in the comments that you haven't received, so you can work on those objections yourself. This is a really cool exercise. So I do advise you to do that in the comment section of the video or in the chat box of the webinar. So first thing first, presentation wise, we have to do a QC, we have to do a quality check. So first thing is figure out typical questions after your presentation. Before the presentation starts, you know that you're going to have a Q&A at the end. Before the presentation starts, try to figure out, sort of forecast the questions that you might receive. It's like going into any business meeting, actually. It's not just about sales. This is literally applicable to any field and any industry. You go to a meeting and you already have all the answers to the questions. It's like Shark Tank. Anyone here watch Shark Tank? Know that you need to have all your numbers right. You need to have your presentation on point. You need to know not just what you're saying, but how you're going to be, building a relationship with your investors, with your partners, and whoever it is that you're working with. So try to think of those questions beforehand and answer them before the presentation, and then only move on to the presentation. And there's only there's another aspect to that. You're going to be much more confident because you've already answered a lot of the questions that you expect to be asked on the presentation. And this is it's a huge difference, 30-40% better of a presentation that, is more confident, simply confident. So include answers to the biggest questions in your presentation, clear objections before they are voiced by the audience. So before anyone says it, you can actually voice them during your presentation, and we're going to have examples of this, but a lot of people will be like, at the end of the presentation, I know people are going to be like, hey, why does Sincere Group, not let you take out your initial deposit, the main deposit, within the first 4 months? And I already know people ask this a lot. So I'm like, right, let's think about it. And I analyze and I study this and I answer the question. So the answer to that question is because the company is protecting itself. I give them examples. Like imagine that the company has, let's say, a lot of people who are millionaires, right? And then 10 of those millionaires suddenly decide to take out their deposit at the same time. These rules are applicable in order for people not to be taking out money at very fast rates, going in with $1 million for a month and then taking out the entire deposit. Someone's going to be paying for that. It's either the company or you, but if you do that as an investor, you're going to be doing that at the expense of other investors, because this is an investment company. This is basically a fund. So this money it's a pool, right? So in order to protect itself and its investors, the companies have these kind of things. It's not just Sincere Systems. We can look at any bank. You go to a bank and this is another example that you can use for your clients. Is you go to a bank and you're like, you put $1 million into a bank. They're not going to let you take that out. They're going to make you sign a contract for how long you're going to keep that deposit. They're not going to let you touch that money. It's the same thing here, but in a bank, it's typically, a year, more, 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years. If you want the good income, nothing's going to match, in high risk investments, so to speak. But, it's the same rule everywhere. So there's nothing new about that. That's just an example. So another example is a much simpler example is, hey, mate, investment needs a lot of money. And you in your presentation, you can already say, to become an active partner, you can start with just $100, So you've just turned that sort of excuse or objection. You've already answered that. People will not sit after the presentation or at the meeting and be like, hey, dude, this is way too, expensive for me. I think investment is all about, having a lot of money initially. No, you say during your presentation, you say our partners can start with just the $100 investment, and done. You've already obliterated that question. You've already obliterated the false sort of confidence that the client has been trying to instill in himself. So another thing is, it's too late or too early for me to invest. You can just give the example of the train. A train has many carriages. If you get in the first one, if you don't have time to get in the first one, you'll get in the second one. These are just sort of examples that you want to be prepared for. So a little bit of a homework that I want you guys to do is to take three phrases from the list that we created of objections and create 3 sentences that you will use in a presentation that will answer the objections before they are voiced. So take 3 of those objections you have in your mind on the paper written down in front of you in the comment section and create an answer to them. And these answers you can then implement in your presentations later on. Let's move on. Keep in mind, one huge thing, change negative wording to positive wording. When you're presenting anything at all, 2 important things, believing in what you're saying. If you believe what you're saying, people will listen to you. People will believe you and people will try to work with you. And another important thing is, changing negative wording to positive wording and changing emotions to business approaches. So the more positive words that you use, the more, sort of good energy that good vibes, it's the good vibes that you want to give to your clients. And you want to change the emotions to the business approach. If you're talking, business, and you're getting to know a client, if you're working with a partner, whatever it is, in affiliate marketing and in the in the marketing industry in general, whatever it is, if you're selling something, if you're advertising something, in a meeting, you want to change those emotions to a business approach. Am I right to understand that this is that, or are you sure this is how we will work this out? There's a lot of aspects to that. So simple rules to keep in mind is, first and foremost, you want to listen. Let me just see that. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah. So listen, smile, make sure that you understand what's going on. Keep in your head that you only want the yes answer, whatever it is that you're doing. You want the yes answer in your mind first. You have to, it's like, when people tell you to first imagine the money in your mind and work towards that goal, create those goals. And then you start, magnetizing the energy for that money to come in and the opportunities to come in. And that really works. It's all in the head at the end of the day. Paint the picture. You want to give the client, you don't want just to give them a document through the help of your voice. You want to paint a picture of something that they can look at and they can see it as a whole, so be relevant in your picture. You don't want to be painting something that that has nothing to do with whatever it is. You want to be relevant and receive a yes. Obviously, if you follow these steps, 90% of the time you will receive a yes, unless it's a client that maybe you shouldn't be working with. There's just people that you just can't be with. Remember to pause. Don't be the first one to talk. So after you've done all this stuff, right? You've helped them, you've answered all their questions, you've done a presentation. Pause and wait for their questions. Pause and wait for their questions, because you want to give them time to to digest that information. It's very important. So 6 important steps to working with objections, and this is where we begin. So step 1, listen to the objective, use active listening techniques, nod your head, pick a right time and method of working with an objection. You don't always have to answer a question straight away, because sometimes certain questions have underlying questions or underlying objections. Like the objection of, I don't have that much money. Maybe there is another objection there that you haven't really seen and you haven't really found out. So see when you need to actually answer these questions and listen actively. Show the person that, you care about what they're saying and you care about learning what they're saying. And that is very important, because you do actually care what they're saying. Because if you don't care what they're saying, then there's no point in you having that meeting. You just, chill. Anyway, step 2 is check if it's the only objection or not. As I mentioned, there's a lot of times where I've, had people say something that seems like an objection, but that's not actually the reason. That was more of an excuse, because people are lazy. A lot of people are lazy. Actually, everyone, in my opinion, is lazy. It's just some people, they have goals in their mind. Some people don't. Anyone who has a goal in their mind is not going to be lazy, So you have to check if what they're saying is an objection or not, or if they have only one or several objections. So you can say something like, please tell, is that the only thing that's keeping you from making a decision? This is really cool, because you actually, the one who's asking the questions, even though they're supposed to be asking you the questions, if you ask them questions back, you are actually in control of the conversation. So whoever is in any conversation with your friends or with your colleagues, whoever is asking the questions is always in control, because you're guiding, the person, you're guiding the client towards sometimes even their own answers. Sometimes you guide them with questions without answering anything, and they come to the answers themselves. And this is what you're trying to work out at the same time. You're trying to see what kind of client, what kind of a partner or person you're talking to. Step 3, check, are there any other reasons for objections, and make sure of it. Am I right to understand that you agree and like everything else? So when a person, voices an objection, you want to make sure that if you're going to be answering this, you want to make sure that you're prepared in case there is something else. So you can actually sort of play with it and say, do I understand that, everything else is cool? You're just, you just have this one thing. A lot of people will say, no, actually, I've got, this, that, and the other. I've got another couple questions and I wanted to know this, that, and the other, And straight away, you've just got way more information than you thought you would have. And this is really important because the more data, the more information you have, the better you're going to formulate what you're going to say next, and the better results you're going to receive. Step 4, figure out if it's an objection or an excuse. Tighten the screws, right? So this is important. There's a huge difference between objections and excuses, right? This is very important. So here we have some codes. So if we figure this out, you will be willing to make your first investment. You know, this kind of phrase, it's a little aggressive. Yeah, it's a super like salesy sort of, you know, approach. And I'm not going to say that you can use that in every single context, but that does test your client and that does test the person and clear things up for you, because then you understand whether that person actually meant what they said, you know, or if they, you know, if that was just an excuse for them not to, you know, get into the sort of vibe that you're wasting their time or whatever. You got to figure that out for yourself. So this kind of phrase will help you. From my understanding, the final decision of joining me relies on the question about this, that, or the other, you know. So another beautiful example that you can use, you're sort of pushing the client into a sale, into, you know, closing the deal, into understanding what it is you're trying to give them. And it's not just about sales, by the way. I'm sorry, I keep saying that word. It's just so much more simpler. It's more about, you know, driving the conversation the way you want it. There, that's actually a perfect, that's a perfect description of this webinar. This is what it actually is. So we're talking about objections, but actually we're talking about driving the conversation towards results, towards the results you have, you know, in your family life, you know, towards the results that you want in your career, the results you want with your friends. You can use these steps. You're not just selling things. You also remember that you're selling what you're saying, you know, a lot of the time. You're talking to your colleagues, you're talking to, you know, your partners. So what do you mean when you say, you know, this is a great sort of question, a boomerang question that many of you might be familiar with. This kind of question, what do you mean when you say, is a great way to buy more time. So more time equals what? More, you know, focused answers, more results, so to speak, you know. Sometimes we generally don't understand what the client wants, but this kind of question will, first of all, clear things up. Perhaps they could formulate their question a lot more simpler and even come to the answer themselves. Or if you're not sure what to answer yet, don't rush it. You know, buy yourself some time. What do you mean when you say, you know, you're not ready for this kind of investment, you know, because you still haven't thought of what you're going to say. So you logically, you got to buy yourself some time. Step 5, emotionally connect with the client and answer their objections. So this is a huge thing, you know, empathy, you know. I give the example of, you know, the education system, you know, testing us with IQ tests and stuff, you know, us getting grades. The thing that we should be testing, and, you know, directors of big corporations and, you know, business owners should be worried about, is empathy. How people are able to emotionally understand and interact with other people, not just clients, with them, with the bosses, with their colleagues, with their families. Are they able to put themselves into the shoes of another person and understand them? You know, because that is where the, you know, the great sort of leadership is born and results are born, is when you can put yourself in the boots of someone who, you know, either doesn't necessarily have to have a negative life or that's something bad going on in their life. But we can all agree that when you put yourself in the shoes of someone else, you know, you feel that emotion, you connect with that person a lot more. You know, a lot of us probably can relate when you had friends who, you know, some troubled times. This is the simplest example. You know, they come to you and they're like, hey, you know, Nick, yeah, I'm not in the mood really. And you're just like, hey, let's talk about it. You know, let me get, and then you know, they say something that you can connect with and you say, hey, I totally get you. This is something that I felt. So a lot of clients, a great example is that when I got into investment, as I mentioned, a lot of people were, you know, who I was working with, they didn't really trust it because I was sort of not as ready as I am now, for example, obviously. So I would tell these people that, you know, when they would say, hey, I don't really trust this kind of stuff. Nowadays, I'm just like, hey, I totally get you. You know, I myself was in that, you know, situation. I myself, you know, totally get you. Like, it's a bit weird. It's a feeling that you feel inside. Hey, you know what? Every flower has to bloom. You know, every flower has a time to bloom, and that's cool. I totally get you. You know, that sort of connects you with the client. So some of the phrases you can use is, yes, I understand. On first glance, it really may seem like this, but actually, and so on and so forth, you know. So on first glance is, you know, sort of a great, you know, clause right there. because that really tells the client that there is a lot more to what you're trying to explain, and it sort of puts them in their place, because it tells them, hey, you know what, that's only the beginning, what you're saying right now. The actual stuff is going to come. I understand your concerns, and in your place I would be concerned too. However, you must agree. So you're agreeing with the client, you're pushing them towards the fact that you're concerned with what they're saying and you understand their concern, but you're asking them to agree with you on a point. You must agree that if you don't invest and you work 9 to 5, then you're just going to spend your entire life working. Great example, right? Because a lot of people just be like, hey, that is actually super true. That sucks. I don't want to do that. And they'll be like, and then they'll start giving more questions. Hey, what about this? What about this? And as soon as you lure them into this, business deal, whatever it is you're doing, that's what's going to bring you the results, the answers that you provide them later. Some of our partners, now active partners, of course, in the beginning thought that this was that and this was that. Later, these partners understood that our company is trustworthy, reliable, modern, and so on. Have I convinced you that working with us is what you need? So this is just another sort of example phrase that you can, put into your own words and, use if you like. So something for beginners is, this is not just beginners of, growing affiliate marketing, but beginner clients who are new to a topic. You can say, yes, indeed, I do sometimes have to hear similar thoughts. However, once our now active partner gets in contact with their financial consultants, their concerns disappear. Their final decision was to work with us, and this, again, you can apply this to anything at all, if it's a sales call, if it's, talking about sincere systems, you're presenting it to your clients. It's really helpful. Step 6, excuse me. 1 second. Step 6, make sure you have cleared the objections and closed the deal. So always make sure that there are no more questions left in your head, because if you've answered 10 questions that the person had, but they were left with that one question, that question is the closed last gate. That's the gate of Mordor. That's not going to let any of your soldiers and your results drive in. That is the final gate that is going to close it off. So you have to ask, have I answered your question? Have I managed to clear things up for you on the matter? If I've answered all your questions, I suggest moving on to the next step. Now, since we have cleared all your concerns, am I right to believe that we should make our first investment? These are some great questions that you can ask after you have already realized that you've answered practically everything and you see the reaction, face-wise, if the person's into it or not. Right, so let's go through some objections techniques. So these techniques will help you handle objections directly. If now we've just been going through sort of examples, these are direct techniques, 6 techniques that I personally use all the time. Not just with Sincere Systems, but when I work with clients, when I work with, on my own projects, convincing investors to join me on ventures and stuff, this is the sort of stuff I work with. So the first technique is the yes, but technique. The second technique is that is exactly why, and it's the easiest way to fend off objections. The third method, questioning questions. Fourth method, let's compare. Fifth technique, past experience. And sixth method, false objections. I'm going to go through each one of them. Don't worry, I'm not rushing. I'm just highlighting what we're going to be talking about right now. Let's go through the first technique. The first method is the yes, but method. This is the easiest and simplest method you can get into, clearing up objections. If you're new to this, if you're not so sure about yourself, this is the easiest. Literally 2 words with a comma in between. First, we agree, and then give them a chance to look at their objections from the other direction. So, hey, I got no money. Yes, that's true, but no one has money, right? I'm kidding. I'm giving you an example of, yes, but, that's what you say, that yes, but you party all the time. Great example. This is huge, especially with young people. The young people in the audience will get me, hey, dude, I ain't got no cash for this kind of idea. I hear it all the time. And then I see all the Instagram stories of them partying and spending real money, like lots of money. And I'm just like, yeah, but you like party all the time. Do you like to party? Like, I understand, I'm not against partying, don't get me wrong, but you are spending a lot of money on something that is very short term. In fact, not even short term, short lived, I would say. A couple of hours of fun at night, you know, spending several hundred or thousands. Some people I know spend thousands of dollars, you know, on their nights out. That's crazy. You know, it's fine if it's once in 6 months, you could say, but every single day, every single weekend, you know, that takes a toll on your expenses. And we're going to be talking about that at the end, by the way. So the yes button method, super simple to turn things around. Second method, that's exactly why. So begin answering the objection with that's exactly why. Later, continue to convince your client. So if someone says, you know, your offer seems interesting to me, but they're not so sure, that is, you have to answer, that is exactly why I would like to more adequately explain to you the advantages of our company, and perhaps then you will change your mind. The example here should include a couple more words. So if someone says something to you like, your offer seems interesting to me, but I'm not sure I'm so ready for this, you know? So you say, that is exactly why I would like to more adequately explain to you the advantages of our company, and perhaps then you will change your mind. You know, you're driving them to give you you're driving them at the end of the day to give you more time, to give you time to express whatever it is you need to express, and, you know, teach them something. You want to get them interested. You want to lure them in so that you can talk about whatever it is that you need to talk about, you know, convince them. So sort of an agreeing method, you know, it's an agreeing technique, you know, that is exactly why you're right. You know, you're saying you're right, you know, you're completely right, but I'm going to keep, you know, I'm going to ask you to, you know, maybe give me a couple more minutes and I'll explain myself. Third method, questioning questions. I think that answers itself, to be honest. But after the objection, you should ask the client a question that will help you understand what key to continue the dialogue in. So, you know, everything in life, I believe, goes in, you know, sort of in different directions. The choices that you make, so to speak, you know, like these sort of life maps that people draw in their minds. Like, if I had done that, then my life would be completely different. It's the same thing everywhere. You know, it's the same thing in conversation. The way you speak and the way you talk is how people are going to receive that information. So after the objection, you want to ask that question that will help you understand how you're going to continue, because you could have been starting like, hey, bro, but in the middle, you know, the client or the person you're working with's head has been, you know, filled up with all this info. And suddenly, you know, there's a little tension, you know, so you should be able to sense that tension and find the key to continue talking properly. Otherwise, the client's just going to shut off. So an example is, you know, yeah, definitely, Seifo. I am recording this. Sincere Group will post this on the YouTube channel. I'll post it on my YouTube channel as well. Don't worry about it, Seifo. Thank you for the question. So, for example, for investment, I need a lot of money. You know, we hear this all the time. And, you know, Seifo, Elena, all of you guys will agree with me that we probably hear this a lot of time, not just about, you know, Sincere Systems Group or investment in general. You know, you hear this all the time. I need a lot of money to do something. So to clear things up, so you don't stop the conversation there, you could be like, hey, what's a lot of money for you? You know, what sum of money would be okay for you? Because I've had a lot of times where people are like, oh, you probably need to invest like millions of dollars. And I'll just be like, well, you know, a lot of money, what's a lot of money for you? You know, what sum of money would you be okay with investing, for example? And some people go like $10,000. I mean, you know, I didn't even have to name a number. They named it themselves, you know, and I figured out straight away, right, this person, you know, they have what it takes, and they can, and straight away I'm calculating the results that they can be getting, you know, so straight away I'm putting in mind, I'm like, that's great. You know, the $10,000 will get $10,000 in Sincere Systems put in today will get you this much in a month. Will get you 10%, you know, or whatever it is, like 10% passive income within the first month, which is great. You know, $1,000, $1,200 you're going to make at the end of this month. So straight away, you know where to keep, you know, direct your ship, so to speak, you know, how to sail the seas. So a lot of people will say like, hey, you're not the only ones. You know, there's a lot of companies with huge ROI, you know, return on investment. And you could be like, hey, how can you be so sure that you have the same level of reliability with your product? So let's say a client is already using an investment instrument or whatever it is that they are using or doing, or maybe they already have a company they work with, you know, like a supplier, for example. How can you be sure that you're going to get the same reliability as you're getting with them, with us, or with us and with them? You know, how sure are you about that? Are you sure about the future of that company? A lot of people, and note this as well, this is great for, you know, whoever is building partner networks. This is a huge one, by the way, right? I always tell clients, I only show them and talk to them about products and investment instruments that I believe in, that I trust and I've studied, and I see the future for these companies. I see the development, the growth. A lot of people, they come to you like, yo man, I saw this company with like 35% ROI in 1 month. And you're just like, okay, do you even know what you're saying? Like, do not say that to any banker or investor. Or if someone says to you 35% in a month, 40% in a month, be sure that product will not last very long, because that is way too much. That is way too much. And you could be like, how sure are you? What does this company do? Are there any other projects that they do, or do they just take your money and that's it? They don't have any marketing, they don't have any people giving webinars and showing clients how things are going to be done. Are you just going with an advertisement you saw on Google? I can make an advertisement like that in about 2 minutes. I mean, web developer and all, what that doesn't take brains. It just takes like $5 and you can have an ad on Google. Is that all you saw? So are you very sure about the future of that company? So you're sort of teasing and luring the person by saying that with these questioning questions into, moving to your side, moving to the bright side of things, The fourth technique is let's compare. So this technique is great for the pyramid argument, the great pyramid argument, or a comparison to other companies with the same product. The point is, make the client compare our company with other companies. Let's go, guys. This is literally the most asked question I get. Literally the most asked question I get. Not just about, any of my investment instruments, just investment in general, or anything that I've heard of before. Let's go through this question, because I feel like a lot of you have heard this and you may not know how to answer correctly. I have figured it out. If someone tells me, is this a pyramid? I just say, sure, let's compare. Okay. Let's keep your thoughts, don't negate that. Just say, let me show you. You have to show the person. If you just tell the person, no, it's not, they're going to say, what have were you trying to convince me there? No one's going to be convinced by you saying, no, it's not, you say, you know what? No, you keep your question. We're going to answer that. And I'm going to show you, let's compare it to someone. Let's compare it to this company, this company, this company, right? And this company, they do this, and this company, they do this. Here, that is a pyramid. Why is that a pyramid? Well, because they have no other projects that they're working on. They fund their entire company based on, affiliate, rewards entirely. They do not have a trading bot. They do not have anything. They're just giving you promises and posting things on TikTok. And they're like, okay, fine, but I don't believe you yet. They rub their nose and they say, I don't believe you yet. Well, you say, all right, cool. How about, and I love this example. This is the greatest example. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are from different countries and you can use this example, all the time, I can, because I'm a Russian citizen. So I'm going to give the Russian example. I hope I don't get arrested for this. It's like, is it a pyramid? And I say, let's compare. Let's compare it to the pension system in Russia, for example, or whatever country. How does a pension system work? You tell me. And straight away, I've sort of compared it and I've asked them a question. What do you think? How do you think a pension system works? At least in my country. I'm not talking about yours, guys. Don't get offended or anything. And people start thinking, oh, well, how does it work? They don't even know, So they say the word pyramid because they've heard it on TV. They've seen companies like MMM rise in the Soviet Union, with Mavrodi, for example. The funny thing is that Mavrodi always said that, guys, this is a pyramid. You guys are joining at your own risk. Companies that do that, they admit to being pyramid schemes. So I literally use that example. I say, look, this is a pyramid scheme. If someone says to me, hey, since you're a pyramid scheme, first of all, I get slightly offended, but I don't show it. I say, all right, let's compare to the pension, system in Russia. How does the pension system work? Let's calculate. And I do a calculation that actually shows you that working till 65, that's the pension age for men in Russia. You work till 65 and then you're paying back taxes. You're getting paid pension. The funny thing is that the average, life expectancy for men in Russia is about 72 years. So you've been saving up for 40 years, but you get like this tiny little amount back. And, most of the Russian population, passes away by about 72 and 75. I'm not saying everyone, but that is the average statistic of my country. And people are like, whoa, I've never actually thought about that. And then I add something to it and I say, you know what? The funny thing is that this entire system that I just explained to you, it's completely legal, and this is where people's brains go boom, and that's it. I've completely turned them, and they're just like, well, okay, tell me more. I want to know more. I want to understand what is going on. So in such a way, you're showing the difference between your product and other companies. Some clients will try to convince you that everyone who takes money is a schemer. Your objective is to say, let's compare. Show the client that this is not true. A lot of times I have to pull out my laptop and they're like, no, I don't believe you. How does it work? Show me. And I say, very simple. Let's open Sincere Systems. Here are the trades that the bot did today. Here they are. Here are the numbers. Here's what did the bot buy today? Japanese yen, the bot bought, US dollar, euro, he sold this, that, he bought this, that. You can see all this information. You can see the percentage of profit that the entire company makes on a graph. It's right there in your dashboard. Why would a company that is a pyramid show how they make money? That is the stupidest thing ever, right? So this is a great, this is the comparison technique, where you can be like, let's compare this to other instruments. Let's compare this to, I'm not going to say any names, but an instrument where, there is absolutely nothing on how they make money. There is no information available. And yet a lot of clients, they come to me from those kind of instruments. They are already in instruments and financial investments that they have no idea what they're doing there. And I tell these people, especially in crypto, I just start talking about Binance and about exchanging money. And they're like, what? No, I joined this company where you buy a token through Telegram. And I'm just like, are you nuts? Like, how do you trust this? Like, how are you sure that this is what's going, like, do you even understand what you're doing? And they're like, but yet these are the same people that go ahead, no, I'm in this company that sells their coin through Telegram, but your company is a pyramid. And you're just like, no hate, let's compare, buddy. Let's go to the next technique. Fifth technique, past experience. This is super powerful. This is like awesome. This is part of like the empathy thing that we spoke about. This is really great. So some objections require you to find a way to link to past experience and help the client agree to your offer. I think that's very straightforward. Did you ever experience this? They will ask, or they will say something and you have to relate to it. I'm sure that you have experienced putting away money into something and later regretting or buying a product that did not fit your needs. Are you a big spender? Are you a saver, or do you like spending spree? And I lead this to, examples, of my life, and you can do the same. We all have experience. We all live this, our own lives. So we all have our own experience. So when people talk to me about, hey, I don't got money, but I know that they're a party animal, they're a party animal and they spend a lot of cash. And I'm just like, hey, I was there as well. And I'll tell you something, I've spent this X amount from this year to this year. And I realized that if I had put that amount into investment, I would have made a hell of a lot more money than you see me having right now, for example, right? And this is where you start connecting with people. This is all part of the empathy and the past experience technique. So try to give an example of something. It's better if you've actually experienced it, but if you have to make something up, then, I really advise against it because I'm an honest person. I'm a good person, I promise. I've never advised someone to make something up. Honestly, don't do it. Just try to relate to it. If you have genuinely never experienced something like that, try to relate to it. And I think it's easier for most people who, are dealing with, like if I, for example, like Seifa, right? You're in Ghana, right? So if Seifa, comes to Russia, he doesn't know the language, he doesn't really know all the, how the mentality and the culture works. It's going to be a lot of more difficult for, if someone says, this is what, I experienced in Russia. A person, not living in Russia would be like, I don't know how to relate to it, but maybe I can relate to it how I've been brought up, but in, my country, Ghana, France, India, wherever it is, I experienced this, and that's very similar, obviously it's a lot, better if you've actually experienced that thing and you're not lying about it, you're not making anything up, but try to be, again, honest with yourself and honest with your clients. Sixth technique, false objections. This is huge. It is important to throw off false objections. Work only with legitimate objections. All right. So a stupid and a genuinely stupid objection that I hear, but I take it normally, is I don't want to do MLM or build a network. Okay. A lot of people come to me like with this thing, and I'm just like, What if I told you that we receive our passive income from trading, and you can invest any sum at all and receive income every single day without having to bring in new partners? That is misspelled, sorry. Will you then agree to become a partner in passive investor? So a lot of people will come to you with, hey, but I feel like you can only earn in this company if you're, building a network. And I just open my account and I just show them and I say, no, look, here, this is the income I'm receiving passively. And those, that's the income that I'm receiving from my network. As you can see, I'm in this for the passive income as well. I'm actually not working for the money that you see on this screen. You can join as a passive investor. There's nothing wrong with that. So to this particular thing where people are like, I don't want to do MLM or build a network. This is huge. You gotta remember this. If a client answers yes, meaning that was the only legitimate objection, if they say that, then continue working with the client. So if they say yes and they're ready, which means that question, whatever it was, that objection, is the only thing that they needed to clear up. If they say no, then the reason for that is that the first objection was a false objection, and there are other legitimate objections. Step by step, work through all of them and throw out those that are false. There's no point in working with them, and honestly, is it worth answering? So you don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste your client's time. If you want to try to figure out, is that an objection, or is that just, as I mentioned, an excuse or a false objection, something that actually hides the true questions that they have. You want to try to figure that out. It's very important. So a couple of recommendations towards sort of the end of this webinar. We thank you so much again for everyone for coming. It's awesome. Material recommendations of this training session. So you got to hold team meetings, work face-to-face or online, whether you're holding a webinar, talking to people, meeting people. Write down objections. We've had this exercise. You can try work on that. It will help you a lot. Write down scripts, add new answers, make practice phone calls with a partner in your team. You can even call each other or something. I don't know. This will help. Start calling potential clients. They don't necessarily have to have anything related to you, but you can try pitching it. You can practice makes perfect. You are controlling the conferences. Remember that the game rules are yours, and take the initiative. Leader's position. You don't need this client; they need you. And as soon as you have that, you will get that. There's a couple of Russian words that no one understands. That was basically the translation from the presentation that I had earlier. Anyway, so be in control, hold team meetings, write down objections, write down scripts, and make sure to practice with yourself, with your friends, with your clients. So the conclusion of this webinar, my dear friends, is what technique or information is new for you or that you like the most? Try to figure it out and see what sort of insights and knowledge that you've gained today. What was the most valuable for you today? And again, the insights that you gained that will help you, work with clients, work with partners, whatever industry it is it at your job? Is it working with people, talking to people? This is really, sort of the thing. I wish you many active team members and many happy partnerships from Sincere Group. Thank you very much. My name is Finance Nick. Peace out. All right. Thank you so much, guys, for attending. The recording is